Jacob handed the stranger his last $18. It was insane. Completely insane. He'd just been fired an hour ago, framed for something he didn't do. And now he was giving away the only money standing between him and his 7-year-old daughter going to bed hungry. But the woman beside him at the bus stop kept counting those crumpled bills, her hands shaking, and he couldn't watch her suffer. Not when he knew exactly what that kind of desperation felt like. So he gave it to her. All of it. She thanked him with tears in her eyes and got on the bus. And Jacob? He started the long walk home, wondering how he'd explain to Grace why there'd be nothing for dinner. The next morning, someone knocked on his door. When Jacob opened it, his heart stopped. 5 black SUVs lined the street outside his apartment. Men and women in expensive suits were stepping out. And walking toward him, dressed like she owned half the city, was her. The woman from the bus stop. Only now, she looked like someone who could buy and sell his entire neighborhood without blinking. "We need to talk," she said. What happened next? Jacob's life was never going to be the same. Before we continue, let us know in the comments section where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if this story speaks to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Jacob hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. His stomach had stopped growling hours ago. Now it just felt hollow, the same way everything else did. He walked through the dark streets, replaying the moment over and over. Marcus standing there with that smug look. Tina refusing to meet his eyes. His supervisor sliding the termination papers across the desk like it was already decided. "We have witnesses who saw you take the equipment, Jacob. Multiple witnesses." He'd never stolen anything in his life. But who was going to believe him over 2 people willing to lie? The bus stop appeared ahead, lit by a single flickering street light. Jacob dropped onto the bench and let his head fall back. His daughter, Grace, was waiting. Sweet, trusting Grace with her gap-toothed smile and her drawings of their family. Always 3 people, even though it had only been 2 for 3 years now. How was he supposed to tell her? A woman sat down beside him. Jacob barely noticed at first. Then he heard her breathing, quick, panicked, the kind that comes right before you fall apart completely. He glanced over. She was maybe late 30s, dressed in jeans and a shirt that had seen better days. Her hands were shaking as she counted a handful of bills and coins. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time, her face fell a little more. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but do you have any change? I'm short for the bus fare." Jacob looked at her. Really looked at her. There were tear tracks on her cheeks. Her eyes had that glazed, desperate look he'd seen in his own mirror too many times. He pulled out his wallet. $18. That was it. That was everything. If he gave it to her, he'd have to walk the 4 miles home. Grace would ask why he was so late. Mrs. Kate would worry. And tomorrow there'd be nothing for breakfast. But this woman was breaking right in front of him. Jacob held out the money. "Here, take it." She stared at the bills like they were a lifeline. "I can't. That's too much. I just need—" "Please," Jacob said, "just take it." Her hands trembled as she accepted the money. I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough." "It's okay," Jacob said, even though it wasn't. Even though he had no idea how he'd make it through tomorrow. "I'm Charlotte," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm not usually... tonight's been..." She couldn't finish. "Jacob, and I get it. Bad nights happen." The bus pulled up with a hiss of brakes. Charlotte stood, clutching the money. I'm going to pay you back. I don't know how yet, but I will. I promise. Jacob nodded, not believing her. People always said things like that. They never followed through. That was just how the world worked. Charlotte got on the bus and it drove away, leaving Jacob alone under the broken streetlight. 4 miles, in the dark, on an empty stomach. He started walking. Grace was already asleep when he finally made it home. Mrs. Kate had fed her dinner, mac and cheese, she said, and stayed late without charging extra. She was good like that. One of the only good things left in Jacob's life. Jacob stood in Grace's doorway, watching her sleep. She had his wife's nose, Sarah's way of curling up on her side with one hand tucked under her cheek. I'm sorry, baby, he whispered. I'm so sorry. He didn't sleep that night, just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of bills he couldn't pay, wondering what came next. Maybe there was construction work. Day labor paid cash. It wouldn't be enough, but it would be something. The knock came at 8 in the morning. Jacob had been awake for hours, nursing his 3rd cup of watered-down coffee. Grace was eating cereal, the last of it, and humming a song from school. I'll get it, Jacob said, expecting Mrs. Kate or maybe the landlord coming early to remind him rent was due. He opened the door and froze. 5 black SUVs lined the street. Actual SUVs, the kind with tinted windows and chrome that caught the morning sun. People in suits were standing beside them, men and women, who looked like they'd stepped out of a corporate magazine. And walking up his cracked sidewalk, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than his rent, was Charlotte, the woman from the bus stop. But she didn't look anything like the broken person who'd counted change with shaking hands. She looked powerful, confident, like someone who could make or break lives with a phone call. Hello, Jacob, she said. His mouth wouldn't work. He just stood there, aware of how shabby his apartment must look, how he was still in yesterday's clothes, how Grace was calling from inside, asking who it was. Can we talk? Charlotte asked. I promised I'd pay you back. Jacob finally found his voice. You didn't have to. It was just... He gestured helplessly at the SUVs. What is all this? My security team, my assistant, my attorney. Charlotte smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Can I come in? Jacob stepped aside, his mind reeling. Grace appeared in the hallway, her eyes going wide. Daddy, who are all those people? Hey, sweetheart, Charlotte said, crouching down. I'm Charlotte. I'm a friend of your dad's. You're pretty, Grace said. Do you like soccer? I have a game on Saturday. Grace, Jacob said, why don't you finish your breakfast? Charlotte waited until Grace skipped back to the kitchen. Then she turned to Jacob, and her professional mask cracked just a little. Last night, I was robbed, she said quietly. They took my car, my phone, my wallet, everything. Left me stranded downtown with nothing. I'm sorry, Jacob said. That's terrible, but I own a marketing firm, Lancaster and Associates. Maybe you've heard of it? She didn't wait for an answer. 50 employees, 15 million in annual revenue. Last night, someone set me up. Someone close to me wanted me vulnerable, wanted me gone, and they almost succeeded. Jacob's head spun. I don't understand. Why are you telling me this? Charlotte's eyes locked on his. Because when I had nothing, when everyone else walked past me like I was invisible, you gave me everything you had. A complete stranger. You gave me your last dollar. It was $18, Jacob said weakly. It was everything, Charlotte corrected. And now I want to know, why? Why did you do it? Jacob sank onto the couch. I don't know. You looked like I felt. Like the world had just taken everything and you were barely hanging on. I couldn't just walk away, even though you'd just lost your job. Jacob's head snapped up. How did you? I do my research, Charlotte said. I know you were fired yesterday. I know it wasn't your fault. And I know you're raising your daughter alone. She sat across from him. Tell me what happened. So he did. The whole miserable story spilled out. Sarah's death, the struggle to keep Grace fed and clothed, the job that barely paid enough, Marcus and Tina's lies, the termination he couldn't fight. Charlotte listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. I need someone I can trust, she finally said. Someone with integrity. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs them everything. She leaned forward. Come work for me, Jacob. Help me find out who betrayed me, and let me give you the second chance you gave me. Jacob stared at her. You're offering me a job? A real one, full benefits. Salary that'll let you take care of Grace the way she deserves. Charlotte's expression softened. I'm not doing this out of pity. I'm doing it because last night you showed me who you are. And that's exactly who I need on my team. Grace appeared in the doorway again, staring at Charlotte with wide eyes full of hope. Jacob looked at his daughter, then at Charlotte, then at the life he'd been trying so hard to hold together with both hands. Okay, he said. Yes, I'll do it. Charlotte smiled, a real smile this time. Good, because we have a lot of work to do. Jacob's first day at Lancaster and Associates felt like stepping into another universe. The office occupied 3 floors of a glass building downtown. Everything gleamed, polished marble, modern art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. People moved through the halls with purpose, their voices confident, their clothes expensive. Jacob felt like an imposter in his department store shirt and borrowed tie. Charlotte met him in the lobby herself. Ignore the looks, she said quietly. Half these people wouldn't last a day in your shoes. Come on. She led him to a conference room where a man in his 50s sat reviewing documents.